What is happening, fishers? Dinya from Untraceable Fishing.
Yeah, with Jared from Bulamoyo Fishing Tackle.
And welcome to
Tackle Tuesday.
Anyway, so by your request, a lot of anglers out there have asked us to run through some estuary, river fishing, call it what you want, some inland fishing. So we're not actually fishing in the sea, in an estuary or river. So Jared and myself have taken a walk around the shop this evening and pulled out some of our favorite lures. We can discuss some bait, what tackle we use, and what rods and reels. So let's just run through, Jared, I think let's run through the rods and reels quickly. We've picked out 4 different types of setups. Some of them are a bit unconventional for river fishing, but there are some benefits of using them. So Jared, let's run through the first, let's start your side and run through what you've got there.
So on this side, we've got a heavier 7-foot rod. I'm just going to put it here in front of the camera. So it's your slightly heavier 7-foot rod with a bait runner on it. That's application would be for throwing live bait or even trawling live bait with a coffee grinder. We went for this just because the bait feeder is really nice when you're hooking that bigger fish. You can let them take quite a bit of line before you actually strike and set into a fish. And you just have to flip your bail over there and it engages itself. So that is the one rod. Then the next one we've got here is just your standard sort of spinning setup, little 7-foot river rod with a 2.5 or 3,000 size grinder. That would be, you could still fish your live bait, but that would be throwing your lures, fishing your sand prawn, your mud prawn, and even your normal baits like your pilchard or your squid.
Okay, so we're going to move on to the conventional reel side. Jared's taking care of the spinning reel side. I've got 2 setups. This is your conventional sort of a river setup. 6.5 to 7-foot rod, quite ideal, nice, especially if you're fishing off a boat. You don't want something too long and more than adequate fishing off the bank. And I've paired this with a conventional overhand reel. The reason I like to use a conventional overhand reel specifically for live bait fishing. If you're live bait fishing, you can put your rods down, you can set the spool tension on the side. So when the fish takes off, it's not going to feel any extra resistance. The bait, the fish can run, you can let the cob, you can let the leery run, really get that live bait down the back of its throat. Yes. One click of the handle engage and either set the hook or put some pressure on it if it's a circle hook, pop that hook in the corner of its mouth. So that would be my number 1 live bait setup rod I'd use. And then I pulled out something quite different out the basket. Jared still said to me, you enjoy a bait caster setup. This is a full-on bass fishing setup, what the bass guys would use. A little overhand bait caster on a little 7-foot bass rod. Have a look at this, especially the guys that are fishing for spotties. I know a lot of guys prefer the spinning reel setup for fishing for spotties. But on the drift, if I'm fishing a drift for a spotted grunter, tiger, whatever you want to call them, wherever you are in the country, this is a nice choice. You can flick your little prawn out. You're not fishing a weight on your prawn. You're fishing just a prawn on a hook or a prawn on a swivel. Spotty are very skittish fish. If they feel any sort of resistance or weight, they're going to drop that prawn and spit it out. Yeah. So this does give you the advantage of letting the fish run freely. You fish it in free spool with your thumb on the spool to palm the spool. Let the fish run. Once you've decided he's run enough, also one click of the handle and the drag's engaged and you can set that hook on that fish. Also makes a phenomenal lure casting setup as the bass fishermen use. That's why they use them. I don't think you get any better setup for fishing lures, be it bucktails, topwater lures. You just have a lot more contact with your lure than you do over a eventual spinning reel. You're always in contact with the lure. The line's always tight. You haven't got the coils of line coming through your thing. So the guys that are doing a bit of lure fishing in the saltwater rivers, definitely look at a little bait caster setup. If you can afford a saltwater bait caster, have a look at that. It's definitely going to last you a bit longer. Yeah. They are a bit pricier though, but there are some very good ones on the market. So nice thing about estuary and river fishing, you don't have to buy top shelf stuff, guys.
Yes.
Your tackle is not getting submerged in water. It's not getting dunked in salt water. Your reels aren't getting dunked. Your reels will last you a lot longer. Yeah. You're not pulling heavy sinkers back in, causing excess strain on your gears and things like that. So for a lot cheaper, you can get a good setup that's going to last you, but there are some brilliant setups you can get there for the guys if you want to spend some top dollar on it. I'd suggest someone getting into estuary river fishing is a great place to start, especially for the youngsters.
Yes, definitely.
Get yourself a 6'6" or 7-foot spinning rod and a 2.5 or 3,000 spinning reel. That's when you start. Once you've progressed a bit, look at an overhand reel for fishing your bait caster, and with 2 setups, you can target any species in the saltwater environment. So, Jared, I think that takes care of our rods and reels.
Yes.
Now, other guys, let's look at some of the different types of fish that we're going to start targeting in our rivers. You can probably name a few.
Oh, you would look at your spotted grunter, cob, Garrick or Larry as they're known, river bream, small kingies depending on what
Your
rivers
location,
you're
correct.
fishing.
You got your river snapper guys. If you're up in Natal, as Jared said, you got your kingfish species down in the Eastern Cape. Your river snapper, big draw card for the guys in the Eastern Cape. They love coming to catch a river snapper down the side. And then in some of the areas, Cape Town, so up in the Eastern Cape, you get your pig nose grunter in June, July times of the year too.
And every now and then, occasionally, even on our coast, this side in the river mouths, you might still come out with your smaller non-heads. Every now and then,
The
you
reggae
get
pups,
diamonds,
and
reggae pups.
So you can have some good fun hooking some crazy fish.
Yeah.
And that takes care of the species in the river. Now, obviously, there's different times to fish. So, like October is definitely what we call Cobtober, is known nationally as Cobtober.
Yeah.
That's the time of the year that the cob come in the river to do their spawning, annual spawn. So it is the best time to catch cob, although you can catch cob throughout the year.
Yes.
The rivers, spotted grunter start looking, and pig nose grunter start looking at June, July. That's when they come in to do their stories in the river. You'll find them on the sandbanks and things like that. And then other species you can catch throughout the whole year. Obviously, your kingfish and your springer. That's one fish we've got about the skipjack. A phenomenal fish to catch in the river, guys. You need to catch a skipjack sometime in your life. They prefer the summer months when the water is a bit warmer and things like that in the river. So that runs through the species. Now, when it comes to estuary fishing, there's two different types. You're either going to fish artificial lures or you're going to fish bait. So there's two options with the way to go. Is I like fishing a bit of bait, putting a rod out nice and lazy, like an old man, and then picking up a spinning rod and doing some spinning at the same time.
Yeah.
So I'm going to leave Jared's going to run through some of the lure selection and what lures we've picked out and why we picked them. And then I'll move on to the bait side. So Jared, floor's all yours.
So one of the options we look at first on the conventional setups would be your trolling lures. So I've just grabbed two sizes here. These are the Rapala Magnum floatings. The one on the right is the bigger size, the F11. And sorry, I got that wrong. The one on the right is the smaller size, the F11, and the left is the F14. So these would be trolling on the surface for generally your cob and your garrick. Obviously, depending on the depth of the river that you're fishing in. Then going over, we look at the top order lures. These are the same lures. So these are the Rapala Skitavies. These you would target cob, grunter, garrick. But also you get a variety of species that might eat them. Your biggest skippies might come to the top and eat them as well. Then we've got a bucktail. These are really, really good for your subsurface to sort of just on the bottom. So the way you're going to work these, you're going to cast it out, let it sink to the bottom. You sort of give it 2 tweaks.
Pause, twitch.
Yes, and then you just lift your tip up, you twitch your tip. So you can also catch variety of species, cob, garrick, river snapper. In the Transkei rivers, you get your small kingies and even your little pick handles. Then another lure, I know Dean likes this lure a lot. These are the sorcerers. This is the 2.5 meter lip. It's sort of you can use it as a trolling lure, but you can also cast with it.
And
You mainly cast with it.
Cast and twitch it, correct?
Yeah. So these also come in a variety of colors. Also another good option to look at in terms of your
I'm going to jump in there for a sec, guys. So my favorite lure, river lure of all time, probably had the most success on it, sorcerer. That's called jelly prawn. Have a look at it. Especially if you're in the Eastern Cape, February, March, April. It is swimming prawn season.
Yes.
And that mimics the swimming prawn. You can put it on the top and flick it around a bit. And I don't think there's anything in the river that's not going to eat that. Get one in your tackle box and I promise you're going to have success. That is phenomenal. I've caught every single river species on that lure. Okay.
So going over to the last topic would be the soft plastics. So we've got two types here on the right hand side.
The scented soft plastics.
Yeah, so these are the scented. So these are the Berkeley Gulf products. This one here is they're known as the bloodworm or the camo worm. You can fish them whole. You can fish them on a standard joke or even on a jig head. Bounce it off the bottom, just cast it out, leave it there. Then what Dean grabbed, also quite an oddish one, is the peeler crab.
Yeah.
So a little, like a sand crab imitation, you could say.
It works very well, your spotties and your piggies.
Yes.
And I've caught 1 or 2 cob on them. They do work quite well.
Okay.
Very lazy lure to fish. Throw it out on a 1/4 ounce, 3/4 ounce jig head at the most if there's a bit of a current, and you just literally reeling it in as slow as you can possibly reel it in.
Okay. Then the last option, so there's so many different sizes of your soft plastics. These are your standard soft plastics. So these are 2 of the McCarthy's. It's a 3-inch and a 4-inch jerk minnow. These you would run on a jig head. You can use them in the river, and you can use them as well fishing like your 3-inch in your gullies. I know a lot of the guys are actually wanting to learn a bit about that. So you could fish
ultralight.
that. Yeah, your ultralight. So you could fish it on your standard spinning setup like we've got here with a little grounder. Those in the rock pools, in the gullies, you can target your little blacktail, small kingies, but majority of your river fish, like your garrick, prefer that because you can bounce it along the bottom. They like the vibration coming off of those lures.
Okay, guys, so that takes a quick wrap through the lures, fishing that. Try all these lures. These are all tried and tested lures. There are hundreds of lures on the shelf. We've definitely pulled out over the years, probably the best tried and tested. The Skitter V is probably the number one
Top order lure.
spotted grunter lure in the country. I'll just maybe change those trebles out for some little assist hooks on it.
Yeah.
We still don't know why they eat them, if it looks like a prawn floating above them, but they absolutely love them. Spend the time with your artificials. It's definitely worth it and rewarding when you do catch a fish. It can be frustrating at times, but you'll be quite surprised how many fish will actually eat artificially if it's fished correctly. I know I've been fortunate enough in the past on little split tail jerk shads, soft. I've got numerous spotted grunters on these where you wouldn't think a spotted grunter would eat something like that.
Yeah.
But they work. I've got a spotted grunter on a bucktail. I've been lucky enough on the sorcerer. So definitely change it up and have some fun with your fishing. So they're taking care of the artificial side. You move on to the bait side. So now the bait side get divided into two. You get naturally collected baits, which are definitely my favorite for river fishing. So my number one option, if you are targeting some cob, some skipjack, some garrick, go net yourself some fresh mullets and get a live bait out. You're definitely going to have better results. There are one or two occasions, don't get me wrong, if you're fishing really brown chocolate water, that you might have better success on a sardine or something like that, something that's a bit more small. But do you remember, cob are not coming into the river to look for sardines, they're coming to look for mullets. So give them what they want. It's pretty easy, guys. The spotted grunt and the pig nose are coming into the river to look for sand prawn and mud prawn. If you're fishing on sand, fish sand prawn. If you're fishing on mud, fish mud prawn. Yes, you can fish them the other way around, but give them what they're actually looking for there. A mud prawn on sand might look a bit weird to a spotty. They are phenomenally clever fish, especially when they get big in clean water. So give them what they're looking for. So those are pretty much, I know some guys down Port Alfred with PSI, they get some bloodworm and things in the river. You guys are so lucky. We don't get them here.
Yeah.
And tapeworm, clam, with these, I think razor clams, we do get here at least.
Yeah, we get some.
So there's a lot of different natural options you can get in the river. But don't despair. If you can't get hold of those other natural, non-natural bought baits, they're still natural though, don't be scared to try octopus leg. Makes a brilliant cob bait in the river, especially your bigger cob. I know the guys on the breeder love a good octopus leg for the bigger cob there.
Also, like your lazy man's bait, you can leave it for an hour, 2 hours.
Can soak.
Your small peckers don't just get it quickly.
And then obviously some very fresh squid makes a phenomenal bait at certain times of the year where I've had live bait out and I'm only catching on squid.
Yeah.
But then you look offshore and you see the coast full of squid trawlers and you understand why the cob are eating squid.
Yes.
Now being sardine season, I think it's a good time to fish sardine. All the fish are eating sardine.
Yeah.
So to change your baits up, which is nice, especially if you're fishing off a boat off the bank, you have the luxury of fishing 4 rods. One guy can fish 4 rods quite comfortably, 2 or 3 rods. You can fish, you can have your rods out, and you can try a different variety of things. Not like you stuck rock and surf with a rod in your hand. Have a live bait out, have a piece of squid out, and see what gets the results.
Give them a buffet.
100%. They can choose whatever they want.
Yes.
Then going further than that, terminal tackle for river fishing, you can keep it quite basic. I know rock and surf, like Jared and myself, we probably carry like 8 different hooks with us that we don't actually need.
True.
Estuary fishing, you can keep it very simple. You can probably get away with 2 hooks.
Yeah.
A hook to fish your live bait off and a hook to fish your prawn bait off. Good choice. I think for estuary fishing, circle hooks, you shouldn't have to fish for any other hook just in the estuary. There are some guys that still like the J hooks. J hook wise, my favorite hook growing up for a live bait was a number 6 or number 7 octopus, being a shorter shank hook. The reason why a shorter shank hook was a live bait, hooked through the back of the tail, just less resistance with that fish swimming around, gives it a bit more natural movement.
Yeah.
And things, and also when the cob are swallowing the bait, it's less hook for them to swallow. So you get a bit of hook sets. Nowadays, I've moved on onto circle hooks. So my favorite circle hook for estuary fishing for live bait would be a 7.0 Mitsu Light. I might slip up to an 8.0 if I am heading down the Cape Way, which I haven't done, but if I am looking for a 20, 30, 40 kilo cob, I might set up the hook
Or
size.
even if you go up to the Transkei, you're fishing the Port St. John, so a
Yes.
big 15 kilo garrick, that would come in handy.
So, but as a general, I think a 7.0 would be a good choice. You're going to hook any sort of cob of any size on that. And then going down to spotted grunter, pig nose grunter, everyday choice. I think a 1.0 would be a great choice.
Yeah.
But then if you're on the luxury of you having some 5, 6 kilo spotted grunter around, maybe some 10 kilo pig nose coming to the river, maybe step up to a 2 or 3.0. Nothing wrong with that. The fish will swallow it quite easily and you'll get those better hook sets and you've got a bit of a stronger hook going there. Then when it comes to sinkers, there's only one way I'd ever fish in a river, is that with a running trace. I would never fish a fixed trace in a river. There are some guys that do it. Simple setup, ball sinker on my main line, down to a swivel, small little power swivel. Keep your terminal tackle as small as possible, especially if there's some weed around, stops that excess weed climbing on your sinkers. Small little sinker, small little swivel, to anywhere between 60 to 1.2 meters of a hook snoot, depending on the current and the conditions I'm fishing in, to my hook. So a little ball sinker would come in quite handy. And I'd say fish as light as possible. Maybe put a 1/4 ounce on to start, throw it out. If you see your bait is lifting a bit, go into a 1/2 ounce, still lifting a bit, 3/4 ounce. Don't just jump to a 1 ounce or a 2 ounce sinker and have this big heavy sinker sitting in the river. When the fish does pick it up and he feels that sinker there, he's going to let your bait go, guys. Fish in rivers seem to be a lot more skittish than fish are biting in the sea for some reason. When it comes to live bait, I like using a barrel sinker. I just see it sits better in the current than what a ball sinker does. It doesn't roll around as much. So that'd be my choice if I'm fishing a live bait. So that pretty much quickly takes care of a terminal tackle. The only thing left is line choice. I'm old school when it comes to this. I fish braid in the sea. When I fish in the river, I like mono. For artificials, I'll still fish braid. Obviously, you're getting better control of your lure. You're getting better casting distance. But it's a bit easier to fish. But when it comes to fishing live bait for cob and garrick like that, I like the stretch of the mono, especially in the river. You're not going to tear as many hooks. Unfortunately, nowadays, the good old river rods of yesteryear, you can't get anymore. The good old Conolins, the Conoflexes, very soft fiberglass rods that definitely absorb the head shakes better than the carbon rods do now. Maybe not as strong as the carbon rods and light as the carbon rods. So that's why mono will still be my choice when it comes to live bait fishing in the rivers. And then for the lure guys out there, if you are fishing braid, I'd suggest spending a bit of money. You're not going to use a lot of it. Get yourself a good fluorocarbon.
Definitely.
Especially if you're fishing cleaner water. You don't always have to use fluorocarbon. But I'm telling you now, if when the spotties, when they're in the mood and they don't want to eat, fluorocarbon could be the difference between you actually getting a fish or not getting a fish, just because of its clarity and its properties in the water. So that quickly takes us a run through on estuary fishing, guys. Get out there, get estuary fishing. Nice thing about estuary fishing, anyone can do it. You don't need to be super fit. You don't need to be agile. Even if you're not fit, you can get down, you can go put a chair down, you can have a nice day out.
Young, old, whether or not you're sitting in a wheelchair or you're a child, it's easily accessible.
It's accessible to anyone. There are still some good rivers around. There are some rivers that aren't that great, unfortunately, due to pollution and things over the years. But if you put that effort in and get to the good rivers, check the tides out. Talking about tides quickly. So for me, the most productive times in estuary fishing was always the first hour of the push. From dead low, that is I found productive of the year. That first hour, you're still getting a bit of mixed water, river water and sea water coming in. That was my best time. And then also 2 hours before high tide and 2 hours after high tide, where the river's nice and full. Especially for drifting for your spotted grunter, your pig nose grunter, you're able to get over those big sandbanks where the fish are up and feeding on. Spring low tide or low tide for spotted grunter, my eyes not that great. All the sandbanks are exposed where they'd be getting their prawn off. So that's pretty much takes care of that. And then also best times of the day, as with all fishing, early morning and late afternoon, before it gets too hot, is definitely going to be your most productive times, or nighttime, of course. Anyways, I hope that gives you a quicker depth into estuary fishing. If there are any questions, please don't forget to pop the questions in below, and I will answer you as soon as possible if there's anything else you'd like to know in some more detail. Anyway, I think that pretty much wraps it up, Jared. Thanks for running through us. Don't forget, guys, if you haven't already entered, it's the Bulmoria Monster Shad Classic starting on the 13th of June. Entries are open now. We'll ask Andrew. Give Andrew some work now. I'll drop the link in below. Thanks, Andrew. He's going to drop the link in below. Guys, get those entries in. Fantastic prize. We have well over 30,000 rands with the cash prizes available. And we are, I don't even know how many thousands, 50, 60, 70, 80. I know Andrew's saying 100,000 rands somewhere there. Prizes are coming in thick and fast. We've got Twin Powers. We've got Horizons. We've got Hearty Rise, 2 Hearty, 3 Hearty Rise rods. There's a crazy amount of prizes available, guys. So make sure those entries get in. and get fishing. Anyway, thanks for joining us from Dean from Bulmoria Fishing
And Jared from Bulmoria Fishing
and
Tackle.
Dean from Untraceable. Cheers.
Cheers.